I like the analogy of comparing operating systems on a computer. There's Apple versus Android and Macintosh versus Windows. One isn't broken or better, they're just different. And these traits can create unique emotional challenges to each of us, HSPs and neurodivergent, which I will add, highly sensitive people are neurodivergent. They come under that umbrella. Both groups experience intense emotions, overthinking, difficulty managing relationships, and stress. Welcome to the Butterfly Event Podcast. This podcast is all about embracing emotional regulation and building emotional resilience. I'm your host, Heather Hewett, double board certified naturopath, clinical nutritionist, and somatic trauma therapy certified. I'm really excited about today's topic. It's all about how to become emotionally resilient as a highly sensitive person and neurodivergent. Before we get started, I would like to ask, please like and subscribe to my channel and comment if you like the episode or if this resonated with you. Well, let's get into this. How to become emotionally resilient as a highly sensitive person and neurodivergent. Well, let's break this down. What is a highly sensitive person or HSP? Well, it was a trait that was coined by psychologists in the 1990s to describe someone with a deep sensitivity to physical, emotional, or social situations and information and their environments around them. I first learned about HSP or highly sensitive person from a doctor that trained me in electrodermal screening. He's a brilliant doctor, Dr. Harry Hong. And he specializes in highly sensitive people, those with autoimmune disorders, ADHD, autism spectrum. He introduced me to this concept, and I read Elaine Aron's books, who was the first to coin the phrase highly sensitive. She has many books on this topic, even a book that is fantastic, How to Parent Your Highly Sensitive Child. You can take her quiz at her website at hsperson.com. So let's get into the traits. I'm going to go through some of the traits. One of them is aware of subtleties around you, becoming overwhelmed when there's a lot to do. You get easily stressed out. You find things can be noisy and chaotic, especially noisy, chaotic places outside of your home. And it can be very overwhelming or too stimulating. You're affected by other people's moods. You're sensitive to pain. Almost a hypersensitivity to physical and emotional pain. Loud noises and caffeine bother you. You find yourself needing to be alone and especially quiet after periods of activity. You find being observed very stressful. You're deeply moved by poetry, art, music, and the arts. You're sensitive to another person's discomfort. You've noticed that about them. You have a rich inner world and deep thoughts. You avoid violent movies or violence, and you're conscientious. And I just want to add this. Being highly sensitive doesn't mean you have a weak mind. It doesn't mean you're weak. It just simply means you feel things more deeply. Well, what is a neurodivergent? Well, it kind of does refer to individuals whose brains process information, learn, and behave differently from what's considered typical. It's really an umbrella term encompassing other neural developmental conditions such as, and not limited to, autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, dyslexia, Tourette syndrome, obsessive compulsive disorder, bipolar disorder, just to name a few. It's not a diagnosis, but rather a descriptor of a unique way of experiencing the world. And it's important to note that neurodivergence is a spectrum, and experiences can vary widely from person to person. Some may have significant challenges while others may have minimal, so it's important not to compare. I like the analogy of comparing operating systems on a computer. There's Apple versus Android and Macintosh versus Windows. One isn't broken or better, they're just different. And these traits can create unique emotional challenges to each of us, HSPs and neurodivergent, which I will add, highly sensitive people are neurodivergent. They come under that umbrella. Both groups experience intense emotions, overthinking, difficulty managing relationships, and stress. And the importance of emotional resilience, especially in neurodivergent and highly sensitive people, is crucial. Well, let's get into what is emotional resilience, since I keep talking about this in every podcast. Well, simply, it's the ability to adapt to stressful situations and cope with life's difficulties. It's a skill that helps you accept problems, live through adversity, and then be able to move on. In other words, you're bending with the wind. You've seen a tree before that can handle that. We're bending with the wind instead of snapping and breaking. Well, HSPs and neurodivergent, we have a bigger challenge with overstimulation, overwhelm, and social exhaustion. Emotional resilience can help reduce the overwhelm, improve self-compassion, and enhance mental health. There are some practical strategies for building emotional resilience that I would love to share with you. Number one, mindfulness and meditation. These are excellent techniques for calming the nervous system. There is fabulous research out there on how mindfulness and meditation is so calming. It's wonderful for the nervous system. I'm going to have a podcast coming soon on mindfulness and meditation because it's such a great topic and tool to have. Self-awareness is the key foundational pillar in emotional intelligence. And mindfulness and meditation strengthens and builds self-awareness. It helps us to connect with our bodies and listen to the wisdom of our bodies. Number two, setting boundaries. Saying no is a form of self-care and resilience. So saying no to people pleasing specifically and being aware when we need to limit our interactions socially, especially in particular around individuals that may drain us. This is really important. Number three, emotional awareness and regulation. You can try journaling, grounding techniques, and identifying emotional triggers. Identifying and validating your own feelings rather than suppressing them goes a long way in helping you to have emotional resilience. Then there's number four, self-compassion. Practice kindness towards yourself, especially in moments of emotional overwhelm and stress. Explore self-compassion exercises by Kristen Neff. She has a wonderful mindfulness self-compassion workbook with exercises and affirmations in there. Number five, build a support system. It's so important to seek out emotionally and mentally healthy friends that support and build you up. Community and support groups are out there and health professionals to help you. But it's really important to find environments that support highly sensitive people and neurodivergent people. I have two communities that I lead and support, and I make sure that it's a safe and accountable space at the same time. We have to learn how to manage triggers in everyday life instead of running from them. Then there's overcoming common struggles. Some specific struggles with HSPs and neurodivergent individuals are with food and alcohol. Sure, there's a lot of things that we can be addicted to, even screens and shopping and gambling. But there seems to be a tendency around food and alcohol, and that's because we didn't have the skills that we needed. So when there's a lack of skill development and a lack of community support, there can be a really big challenge with alcohol abuse and food abuse or food addiction. Having accurate knowledge, learning how to apply what you've learned, and then practice it in a support setting that nourishes growth is important to be able to navigate and flourish in society. Seeking professional support, creating small, achievable goals, and using these accountability groups or partners can really help us with skill building. Emotional resilience is not a destination, so it's not an end goal, but it's a journey and it's a way of being. And it's really important to celebrate your small wins along the way. This is going to reinforce in our brain that skill building is fun and not painful. The brain will do anything to avoid pain, so we want to make sure that it's fun and rewarding. Also, recognize that setbacks are part of growth. So, let's go over some takeaways for this episode or key points. Understanding that HSP and neurodivergence is crucial in being able to navigate challenges and stress. If we don't really know who we are and the challenges that we have, it's going to be really hard to navigate stress and big emotions. We can become emotionally resilient even as an HSP and neurodivergent. I know for myself, I didn't know about that for years and I struggled. But once I had gained that knowledge, knowledge can be power when we put it into practice. And it really did help me. And I can say, sure, there are some big life challenges that happen, but I'm not turning to food and alcohol and other things anymore outside of me that are damaging and unhealthy. So there definitely is hope. And I've helped hundreds of people to be able to do this, helping them to empower themselves and arm themselves with skills that help them to successfully navigate their journey in life. We can use these practical strategies such as mindfulness, meditation, and journaling, and more for increasing self-awareness. But we have to be willing to do the work. No one's going to do it for us. And what we want to make sure we have in tandem is self-compassion. That is very necessary on this journey. When we show love toward ourselves, it can sweeten the training process and make it rewarding. Also, having a support system is key. Using a team approach helps us to flourish and thrive. So now it comes to the part that I love. One of my favorite parts is the somatic exercise. Somatic exercise, especially this one in particular, really does help us to reset. This exercise helps us to come out of the sympathetic part of the nervous system. The sympathetic part is that flight or fight mode. And don't get me wrong, we need to have this, especially when we're rushing out the door or we're trying to get things done. It's important. But we don't want to stay in this mode. And when we experience high stress, overwhelm, or stimulation, that's what we're feeling, that sympathetic mode. And we want to be able to flawlessly, fluidly shift over to the parasympathetic part. I like to think about a parachute being deployed when I do this. That parasympathetic part of the nervous system, or that rest or digest mode, we feel calm, connected, compassionate, and curious instead of being stressed out. This is an important tool that we have to use in our body, because where we are feeling the big emotions, the big feelings, the big sensations are in our bodies. That's where we're feeling it. And when we feel these sensations, sometimes they don't feel good, these big feelings. And when we don't know how to feel them and we don't know how to process them, they may sit there and it feels worse. And we start to feel pain. It signals to the brain we're feeling pain. And this is when we run to alcohol and food or whatever it is that we tend to use. Sometimes it may just be shutting down, or it could be screaming at somebody. Whatever the case, using somatic exercises is a wonderful tool to release tension and emotion from the body and being able to feel comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. So, this one exercise I'm going to demonstrate is called the salamander exercise. I like to always have people take in a few deep breaths first so we could release the tension from our body. You kind of don't realize how much tension you have maybe until you start deep breathing or you really focus on connecting with your body. So let's start by taking an inhale in through your nose, exhale through your nose, inhale through your nose, and exhale through your nose. Inhale in, exhale out. And the reason why we keep our mouths closed, have you ever really exerted yourself before in exercise or doing some type of activity, your mouth drops open? That's signaling that we are in the sympathetic response. We want to keep our mouths closed, or we can even purse our lips, which is fine. But doing that is going to help us shift from that sympathetic into the parasympathetic. So again, the purpose of this, we want to release tension from our body. And what we're going to do during this exercise, we're going to do it on both sides, okay? So we're going to start with tilting our head to the left. And we're going to take our eyes and our gaze and look down to the right corner. Let's breathe in. Breathe out. Keep your gaze to the right. And what we're looking for is a yawn, a sigh, or a swallow. Now we want to take our heads and do it to the opposite side. We want to tilt our head to the right. Take our gaze and look down to the left corner and keep looking over until you feel that yawn, sigh, or swallow. And you just feel this calming that happens. And that's the sign that we shifted over to the parasympathetic. And that outward sign is that yawn, swallow, or sigh. You can literally feel the feel-good chemicals being released. So what we want to do is, of course, is practice this, because just like with anything, practice makes better. But the thing you want to focus on right now is, how do you feel? I know I feel calm and relaxed right now. Our body is our own pharmacy, and we can release feel-good chemicals. And doing so by using somatic exercises, deep breathing, all of these things are going to help us to process our emotions and shift us over to the parasympathetic. Now, if it took you a while to experience the yawn or swallow or sigh, that's okay. It just means you need more practice. So try practicing this exercise every day. It just takes a couple of minutes. This exercise and the ones that I show at the end really do help you to tone the vagus nerve. Vagus nerve is getting more and more popular, but it's the wandering nerve. It connects and runs all throughout our body and sends messages to the brain. So toning, think about that word toning. When we go to the gym, we want to tone our muscles, right? So if we practice these skills, it's going to help us to have better vagal tone. When we have good vagal tone, we're going to have good emotional regulation. When we have poor emotional regulation, we normally have weak vagal tone. Emotional regulation, remember, it helps us to pause rather than react. We're able to handle more stress and we're not as easily triggered. Another thing or tool that can help are essential oils. I love doTERRA essential oils. These are my go-to. Lavender roll-on and adaptive roll-on. These are great. You can do a lot with these. You can inhale and smell them, put it on your temples, your neck, your heart, acupressure points, whatever, depending on whatever it is that you're feeling and what works best for you. But you can do this anytime you need it. To me, they work really fast, really quick. There are even diffusers that you can put the oils in and diffuse next to you. It can be done at night. You get a deep, restful sleep. But I highly recommend this brand because of them being actually what they say they are and pure. The purity of these oils are amazing. There are a lot of oils on the market that aren't good, and I've had some bad reactions to them, as well as others that claim they were organic and pure, and they simply just did not work as well. But essential oils can help people calm down by stimulating the olfactory system, which sends signals to the brain's emotional center. This potentially triggering the release of calming chemicals such as dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine is that reward pleasure hormone, and serotonin is the happiness hormone. Well, what is the olfactory system? Well, when you inhale essential oils, the scent molecules travel to the olfactory nerves in your nose, which then transmit signals to your brain. Essential oils may help you to shift over to sympathetic response quickly. When we inhale, diffuse, or put them on particular points on the body, it can really help us calm down and shift to that parasympathetic response. I like to carry these with me. They're great to use at any time. I've even used them on my son who's had issues with focusing and concentrating. Putting them on the back of the brain stem, it's been wonderful. So you have another tool that you can use. Now I'll be presenting even more oils and what they can be used for different emotions in the future. But it's another tool that you have now to help you with emotional regulation. Well, this wraps up today's episode. Always remember that the journey of emotional mastery is just that, a journey. And by understanding the science of our brains and nervous system and implementing these tools, we can navigate our emotions with grace and resilience. And if you find you need more support or one-on-one coaching, please visit my website and fill out the contact info at heathermhewitt.com. And if you found this episode enlightening, please share it with someone who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights on your mental well-being. And remember to embrace the change and discover the beauty of transformation and embrace your inner butterfly. Bye for now.